Garcetti, Hahn, Holden, Labange, Liskowski, Pacheco, Perry, Reyes, Ridley Thomas, Weiss, Stein, and Padilla. 10 members present and a quorum, Madam President.
10 miembros
Okay,
presentes. Podemos
first order
empezar
of
con
business.
Approval of the minutes.
aprobación de los
Minutes are
minutos.
approved.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Resolución para
Minutes are also
aprobación.
approved.
Now is the time for the flag salute and the invocation.
Everyone please rise.
La bandera, por favor, todos levántense.
Mr. Holden, would you lead us in the flag salute?
Yes, place your hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now have the invocation.
Tenemos la invocación.
Hashemayim, our Father God in heaven,
Nuestro Padre arriba en el
we
cielo,
thank you for life
damos gracias
and
por la
the
vida
earth we share with everyone.
y compartimos con
We
todos.
pray for the unity of all races and religion within the city.
Rezamos por todas las
Please help
humanidades.
everyone search within themselves to find the breath of compassion for those who are different, as well as those that are in need,
También como que están los en
and ignite the fire of passion to oppose the injustices and prejudices of society,
juicios de la ciudad,
so that everyone may live in harmony within our city.
nuestra ciudad.
We ask that each one, in whatever form each person perceives it, to help us build bridges across the waters which divide the city into opposing groups, bringing stability to the city and all the earth through the understanding that though we have differences, the commonalities we share bring us together. At this time, a time of spiritual, special time for so many different faiths, and as this nation commemorates the third-month anniversary of one of its greatest tragedies, and pays tribute to those who fell, bless this council, our city leaders, with the wisdom to understand that the harvest of the city is now reaping, grew from the seeds that were planted in the past. Give us vision to see that the harvest of the future come from the seeds planted today, that we may choose our seeds wisely, so that this city will continue to grow tolerance and love for all its citizens, for our tomorrow and our children's future. V'chein yehi ratzon, and so may it be. And let us all say, Amen.
Todos, amén. Muchas gracias.
Next order, Mr. Clerk.
There's a couple items to be continued on today's agenda. Item number 10, a request from Council District 7 to have that matter continued until December 21st.
Is there any objection to continuing item number 10 until December 21st? If not, that will be the order.
Item number 25, also a request from Council District 7 to continue that matter until December 18th.
That will be the order to continue item number 25 to December 17th, you said?
Madam President, item number 1 is the mayor's veto message. A public hearing has been held on this matter.
Point of order.
Yes.
I have a special guest in the audience I want to introduce.
Okay, let us hold that and have the introduction by Mr. Holden.
Madam President, members of the City Council, it's indeed an honor for me and a privilege for all of us to have here in the City Council today one of the greatest baseball players of all times, Ernie Banks, Mr. Cub. Ernie? There's a few things written on the resolution which I'm not going to read. I just want to say that this little card that Ernie gave to a few people tells the whole story. Let's play 2, New World Van Line, Ernie Banks. They call Ernie Banks Mr. Sunshine because of his sweet disposition. He would not hit the ball when the pitcher throws it. Yet the infielder swung one of the meanest bats in baseball's history. A shortstop for 9 years and a first baseman for 10 years, Ernie Banks played his entire career in one city, on one team, under one mayor.
alcalde.
He is a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame. He hit 512 career home runs,
12 home runs,
with more than 40
más de 20
in a season 5 times,
en 5
and
veces.
set a record of 5 Grand Slammers
Grand Slammers.
in 1955. You all know what a Grand Slammer is?
¿Saben lo que es un Grand Slammer?
That's a slammer.
Es un slammer.
Ernie was the first to be elected NFL Most Valuable Player for 2 successive years, 58 and 59. He led the league in home runs and runs batted in twice, and slugging points once. Also, he established records for most homers in a season by a shortstop, 47 in 1958. And for the fewest errors, 12, and best fielding average, .985. I'll give you those 0015 points, give you 1,000. You're the best. By a shortstop in 1959. Lifetime statistics are just outstanding. I just want you to know that I went to a fundraising event the other day at the Hilton Hotel. And once again, Arnie was doing good things, not in the field of baseball, but in charitable commitment to helping people who needed help most. The Children's Hospital he raised money for, thousands of dollars in our city. And the Children's Hospital representative was there and brought some of the children out who had some really catastrophic problems. But they were helped because of people like Ernie Banks and the monies that they raised that provided health care to people who could not otherwise afford it. I mean, Ernie Banks is a champion in more than one field, and he's been a champion for all of us over the years. So while he's here, you know, while I was there at the dinner, I got him to autograph this placemat here that I'm going to frame, and I'm going to keep it for another 20 or 30 years. And Ernie, if you get to heaven before I do, I want you to know I'm going to sell it. This could be worth a lot of money. So you can put the cameras on there. That's really great. Anyway, Mr. Baseball, Mr. Cub,
Señor Cub.
Ernie Banks. Oh, I left out that Ernie Banks had played baseball, basketball, 3-letter man in Texas.
En Texas.
That's where the president's from, Texas. And then he was drafted into the military at about age 20.
Militar.
Age 20. He went into an army where the people he served with all looked like him until they decided they want to integrate and have some good guys all mixed up. And then at age 22, he went to play for Kansas City Monarchs and went from there straight to the major leagues. First player, the Black Negro League he played in. And I got to tell you, a lot of guys, Don Newcomb, Campanella and all, and now Ernie Banks. Let's hear it from Ernie Banks. Can I hear it? Show him some love.
Thank you very much, Councilman Holden. It's really wonderful to be here this morning, to see all of you and to receive this great honor. And I know he gave all the statistics about my sports career, but that's not where I am today. My whole life today is built around young people and experienced people, which I am now. So all I want to do is give, help, share, and love with other people. And I'm at that point now in my life. That's all I want to do, is to give, share, and help other people. So I'm going to do that here in Los Angeles, and I'm going to be able to leave something for my legacy, and I'm sure Councilman Holden feels the same way. I want to leave something and give something back to young people and experienced people in this city. So I really appreciate this great honor this morning. I appreciate seeing all the council people. You all are doing a wonderful job, and I really admire all of you because I ran for alderman in Chicago 1962, so I have a feeling for some of the things about your profession, but it is totally different today. So I admire all of you for what you're doing and how you're doing it. And I just wish all of you the very, very best. And God bless America.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Holden, for that very, very special guest and introduction today. And members of the council, we've had a request. Yes, Mr. Holden.
I have an added surprise for Mr. Banks. We have also, should be introduced, a man named Ted Milner from the Black Baseball Players Association. I like that, huh? They will have a special game at Dodger Stadium, February the 9th, commemorating the old Negro League. And Mr. Milner is here just to say a few words regarding that historical event that's going to take place at Dodger Stadium, commemorating the contributions made by many of those players.
Good morning. I want to thank you for the opportunity, Nate Holden, to address the council. And on February the 9th, 2002, Dodger Stadium, we will host the Game of the Century, which will consist of those players who recently retired from the major leagues. And it will honor those players such as Ernie Banks and many of others that have played in the Negro Leagues. But those players who recently retired from major leagues such as Pedro Guerrero, Mariano Duncan, many of the Dodgers, managed by Reggie Smith and Enos Cabell, former Dodger legends. It is an opportunity for us to honor Black History Month and to honor those players who actually paved the way for us. It's a unique opportunity that the city of Los Angeles has, simply because Jackie Robinson is the one who broke the color barrier with the Dodgers. So we look forward to everyone attending, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holden.
If anybody can get Ernie Banks to sign one of these, you can do like I'm going to do. You can save it and sell it.
Members of the council, we have had a request today from Council President Padilla to take public comment out of order. I understand we have some special guests who are here with us from Sacramento. So let me now go ahead and begin the public comment period and call on some of our friends from Sacramento, Assemblymember Jackie Goldberg, Assemblymember Lowenthal, Assemblymember Paul Koretz, and I understand Senator Alarcon is also in the audience. Good morning.
Good morning.
Buenos días.
Councilmember Miskowski, members of the City Council. We are 5 because Senator Gloria Romero is expected momentarily. But we represent many others, including Senator Sheila Kuehl and Assemblymember Jenny Oropesa and others who simply could not be here this morning to join us. We come to you as people who are facing a $12 billion plus debt in the state budget. And so we know that these are difficult times. We know that these must be difficult times for the city's budget as well. But our concern is that the affordable housing crisis in Los Angeles and in Southern California, but we are of course interested here in Los Angeles, is now at such a crisis stage that people are simply unable to find an affordable place to live. Even with all of the efforts that we have done over the years to support affordable housing. And so we really wanted to come and say to you a very simple message. First, we are grateful for your leadership in wanting to establish, not to establish, but to increase the amount in this housing trust fund. Secondly, to urge you to find, if you can't find 100 million, find 75 million, but get started with it. And for our part, we will make every effort to protect cities' and particularly Los Angeles, from the budget cuts that unfortunately could come to cities, and try to focus them on statewide programs that perhaps will hurt. There's no doubt about it. You can't cut $12 billion from anywhere without doing harm. But we will try on our part to protect cities. But we urge you to not wait until you can do the full $100 million if you can't. So do $75 million, but do it from a renewable source, a permanent source. You don't have to come and try to find it each year, but get started. And for our part, we're going to try to protect the funding that you get from Sacramento, so that that won't be an additional burden while you're trying to do this. And now I have other colleagues who would like to speak.
Thank you. Ms. Goldberg, before you leave the microphone, let me just thank you and for the other members of the council acknowledge that when you were here as a member of the council and a member of the Ad Hoc Budget Committee, we have a housing trust fund in great measure due to you and your efforts to say that we should begin that process. So I'm glad to see you here reminding us that we now need to build it in a significant way.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, first of all, let me say it's a pleasure to be back, and to say that your housing conditions have been greatly improved in the City Council is hopefully a good indication of your intention to house the people of Los Angeles equally, or maybe not so lavishly, but at least in larger measure improve upon some of the successes that I think we started building in the early 1990s. What I wanted to do was share with you that as chair of the Housing and Community Development Committee for the first 2 years that I served in the Senate, we had made significant progress. In fact, in the second year when we negotiated with the governor to allocate some over $500 million in resources, that was an increase over the last 16 years of $500 million. And so it was no small accomplishment to see that the state of California would ante up $500 plus toward important programs to improve the conditions of housing throughout the state of California. Clearly, the housing crisis is statewide, not just in Los Angeles. And in fact, I want to commend the city of Los Angeles for being a good player in terms of affordable housing. It has always met its goals in terms of fitting into the state picture, and certainly it is our responsibility, and I think collectively, I know each of these colleagues have been advocates for balancing the inequities in the burdens of affordable housing throughout the state of California. That's not on blind eyes here. We know that the city of Los Angeles is doing more than its fair share on affordable housing. However, the crisis hits hardest in the city of Los Angeles, but it's also hitting other parts of the state. What I wanted to do is talk about what that $500 million went to, just very briefly. In 2001, first of all, let me say that the $500 million was appropriated for everything from multifamily housing programs. It was in lieu of a housing bond, in fact, that I proposed, a $980 million housing bond that I proposed in my first year. And the money went for everything from self-service programs like Habitat for Humanity to programs that traditionally fit into the affordable housing mold. But the bottom line is that my goal to establish a housing trust fund at the state was not accomplished. However, we set up a program for the housing trust. We didn't fund it. And so I want, as much as I'm committing to work with you to establish a housing trust in Los Angeles to be, to have larger impact than the $5 million you've already allocated, I commend to you and commit to you that I will work just as hard to establish such a program in the state of California, or not the program, but the dollars to back up the program in the state of California. I also want to mention that we have to join forces to ensure that the government, that the state government does not reduce that $500 million. And so as much as we're here to say, please don't back down on your commitment, or those of you who have made commitments, don't back down on that commitment to the city of Los Angeles. We're also here to say, join with us to fight to ensure that the state of California meets its mandate to provide more affordable housing throughout. The $500 million will generate about, over the next 3 years, about 50,000 units of housing. We know that the shortage in California is about 250,000 units, of which private development will develop somewhere between 100 and 125,000 units of housing. Therefore, if we are able to add 50,000 units over the next 3 years from the government side, the state side, we're still running a shortage of some almost 100,000 units a year throughout the state of California. That burden weighs heavily on the city of Los Angeles, and therefore we cannot turn back on your commitment to raise more dollars for the fund. It's a long-term strategy, and I want to mention one other thing. It's important that we use these dollars wisely. Building communities is a smart investment in terms of economic development, and it's a wise way to use your dollars in times when it's tough. But also, we have to recognize that this problem is not going to be solved overnight. I want to commend Councilmember Garcetti for his leadership last year to stimulate this discussion more. Let's encourage more of that. And know that we will work with you. If you can't meet the whole commitment, we will work with you to ensure that you can meet the greatest commitment that's possible, that's feasible within the city of Los Angeles. Again, thank you for allowing me to come back and say a few words.
Thank you. My name is Assemblyman Lowenthal. I represent the San Pedro area in the State Assembly. I also chair the Assembly Housing and Community Development and worked with Richard 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, when we put forth the largest housing general fund expenditure of approximately $600 million. I'm really here to commend the City Council, to say we're going to be a partner with you. We realize it is our highest priority, affordable housing. We, especially those of us that have come from local government and from the Los Angeles area, know that we cannot have a workforce, we cannot have jobs if we do not have housing. We need to have our housing near our jobs, we need to have affordable housing, or else this great economic development that we've seen over the last number of years will not be spread to all of our people. I want to say that we will work with you. If you will work, if you do what you can, do as much as you can, we will be a partner with you. All of those that are here today made a commitment to moving our housing bond through. I will tell you that right now in my housing committee, we have the largest housing bond, now Senator Burton's bond, that will go before the public, we hope by next November. We are committed to moving that bond through. That bond, as Richard pointed out, has a number of things that came from the original bond that he originally had proposed, and that really will impact urban areas, especially the Los Angeles area. So I greatly encourage you to work with us. Those of us, all of us here that came before, that are here before you, come from local governments. We are not going to balance the state's budget on the backs of local government. If you do your share, we will do our share. Let's hope that the mayor puts the Housing Trust Fund in his budget. And I'm glad to be here and glad to see my own Councilmember Hahn.
Assemblymember Corretz. Well, thank you. It's good to see all my friends here on the City Council. And I know I'm preaching to the choir on this issue because the City of Los Angeles has been a good actor on affordable housing issues. I know a lot of you have provided leadership, particularly Mayor Hahn and Councilman Pacheco and others on this issue. But I just have to be here to remind you that there are tens of thousands of people that can't afford to live in the City of Los Angeles, and they do it anyway. They can't afford it, but it means people like our county home care workers, for instance, who are professionals, wind up having to either work 2 full-time jobs, work 80 or 90 hours a week to pay for their housing, or double or triple up with other families in apartments that were meant for one family, because they just can't do it. The affordable housing is not there. And I'm just here to say I'm committed as a state legislator to do whatever I can to back up the good work that the City of Los Angeles has committed to, and I know is going to follow through on. I recognize our budget is bad this year. I recognize yours is not going to be that much better. So as it was said before, we need to phase it in. But when the state has more money, I think we really have to pony up seriously, but we have to get started now, even without the kind of funding we had hoped a year ago would be present. So I hope we'll all work together and provide the affordable housing that we absolutely have to have in the city of Los Angeles to allow our residents to live in decent conditions. Thank you very much.
So President Padilla, that concludes our presentation. We have a group of people who are housing advocates. We are here to support your efforts, to thank those of you who have provided leadership, to urge the mayor of the city to provide additional leadership in his budget, and to say if you can't do $100 million, do $75 million, but get started, because every year we lose putting housing starts to begin, we get that much further behind. We can't afford to lose any more time. So we know it's difficult, but we thought we'd come while we're still on interim and tell you that we're going to do our part to try to protect your dollars that you do have from cuts in Sacramento, and that we will do our part to put this $2 billion housing bond on the November ballot so that we can be partners in trying to solve this problem. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, our Sacramento representatives. Before continuing with public comment, the chair recognizes Mr. Holden.
Ms. Goldberg, there's a $2 billion housing bond measure that you guys are going to put in the ballot?
Well, it hasn't happened yet, but it's in the process. It's cooking, as we say.
It's cooking, which means you need 54 votes in the Assembly and 27 in the Senate.
Yes.
And you'll be the advocate in the Assembly side.
Well, no, we have Mr. Lowenthal lead the way as chair of the committee, but I'll certainly be advocating for it. Yes, sir.
Okay, and so if you're able to do that, then the voters will get a chance to vote on it, correct?
That's correct.
But if you're unable to do that, which is kind of tough, they won't get a chance to vote on it, right? Short of that, give us some suggestions.
Well, you know, when I was here in a seat on that side, we talked about using some of the TOT, some of the, in other words, revenues from the hotel taxes, and even though those revenues are down, that's why we're saying, so you can't do $100 million, do $75 million. Do what you can do. Our urging is to get started. We have other ways to help, which is to try to protect you from cuts, which I think we will be successful in doing. And I'm very hopeful about the $2 billion bond, actually. It's got a lot of legs.
Right, just my final statement is that we had a $12 billion surplus since when you went there. And now we have
it was gone when I got there. I'm sorry.
It was a deficit now.
I wish it had been there when I got
deficit,
there.
And I'm wondering how they count money up there. But anyway, thank you very much for coming. I'll do what I can do to help you.
Just one small correction, since this goes out over the airways. It was gone when I arrived.
Okay, okay, Richard.
Members of the council, there are 3 additional cards that were filed for public speaking. Let me call Roberto Carvajal, Monica Harmon, and Mort Allen. Is Mr. Carvajal here?
Hello. I don't know how to proceed, but I'm trying to get some people interested in a therapy that I use called Faradism. It's use of electricity to quit using drugs and alcohol and cigarettes. And I'm trying to see if I could get any support from y'all. I've called all the people that you fund, well, almost 100 of the people that you fund, and nobody's familiar with it. It's called the Faradic aversion therapy, and it's just small electrical irritation in order to bring a dependency to extinction. So I was hoping you could give me something so I could call the rest of these people and try to get them interested. Maybe they've been asking about funding, you know, stuff like that. The Schick Center used to do this. They still do up in Oregon. So I'm trying to get that started back down here. And it's been a lot of struggle, hard sell. That's it.
This is the public comment period, so we will have to refer that. Maybe someone at the side, at Sergeant at Arms, can help refer you to someone who can help.
All right, can I just leave my website? It's at faradism.net. It's F as in Farrakhan, D as in David, I-S-M, faradism.net. Thank you.
Thank you. Monica Harmon.
Good morning. My name is Monica Harmon, and I am a taxpayer living in the city of Los Angeles. I was born and raised here. My grandfather is a retired LAPD detective serving 33 years with the LAPD. I am here to show my support for the courageous men and women of the LAPD who risk their lives on a daily basis to ensure that your family and mine are safe. I have seen 3 previous chiefs throughout my life here in Los Angeles: Chief Davis, Chief Gates, Chief Williams, and now Chief Parks. I am also here to tell you my reasons why I do not feel Chief Parks' contract should be renegotiated. Last year alone, LAPD lost over 800 officers. Never in the history of LAPD have so many officers left in a one-year period from this great department because of Chief Parks' unfair discipline system. I have spoken with officers who chose early retirement because they did not agree with his micromanagement style and his harsh discipline of officers who have been unfairly punished. Others simply left because of low morale, and not wanting to belong to a department that they were ashamed of. The fact of the matter is, LAPD is losing good officers on a monthly basis because of Chief Parks' poor leadership. I have never witnessed in all my years such low morale amongst sworn officers. Chief Parks would like you to believe that the problem does not exist. Let me put it in a context so that you can see my perspective. If Chief Parks was a CEO of a major corporation and over 800 employees left in a one-year period, he would be immediately terminated. Why hasn't that happened? Recruitment of the LAPD is a big problem. The old days of having graduating classes of over 100 are far gone. Recently, the LA Protective League sent out a survey to the officers. Over 3,000 officers reported poor grades on Chief Parks' job performance. He received a C for integrity, a D for trustworthiness, and an F.
Ms. Harmon, we are running out of time on public hearing. Could I ask you to conclude? We have one more speaker.
Okay.
You can submit your comments to us. We'll make sure they get around to each of the council members.
Do I have a closing?
Conclude, please.
The courageous men and women of LAPD have made this city proud. We had a great Olympics, DNC, and the Lakers World Championship. What has this city done for them? Where is the support? Not one of you city council members that have the strength to come forward and make a stand on Chief Parks' renegotiation, except the African Americans who came out in a press conference and tried to pull the race card. Don't disappoint the 8,000 sworn men and women out there risking their lives for you and me.
Mort Allen.
Got me off guard doing this at the beginning. Let me first, I want to just say one thing. In our community, people are just reeling. We went through an election campaign. We have 3 council districts in Studio City, which in Tom LeBlanche's, where we had so much negativity going on in the campaign. I'm going to tell you, this current campaign, which will be decided hopefully tonight, is gotten equally as negative. And I just want to say it's really bad for keeping the Valley when all this stuff that's going on between the candidates. I want to say that we went down last week and we pulled the annexation papers from 1914, which is very interesting. I'm going to give them out to you. I don't think anybody else has done that before. But the main comment I want to make is, I've discussed this with a lot of you. We've got to do something. We have something in the Valley that's the biggest secret in the world. The city paid $1 for. It's the 75-acre Air National Guard base at Van Nuys Airport, which has been padlocked, which has a 250-seat auditorium, which should be used for our Valley meetings. It has 2,000-bed barracks that should be used, if nothing else, for the homeless or whatever. We've got all these office buildings that's standing vacant, and there's no reason that we're not using this. It's like the biggest secret in the Valley for temporary offices and for everything else that we need. And I think that the council, one of the committees should look into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. And our final speaker is Richard Robinson. Is Richard here? Richard?
I pass, Senator. Yo paso.
Okay, that does conclude the public comment. We are now back resuming the calendar. Mr. Clerk?
There's been a request that item number 29 be continued until December 14th.
Without objection, item 29 will be continued.
Item number 44, request that matter be continued until December 14th.
That matter will also be continued.
That brings you back to the regular agenda. Item number 1 is the mayor's veto message. This matter has had a public hearing, and there are two parts to the veto and an amending motion.
Is there a motion on item number 1? I had a request from Mr. Holden to call that matter special. Is Mr. Holden here? Is someone going to make a motion or call it special?
I make a motion, Ms. President, to send that to committee, the whole matter?
Any objection? If not, that will be the order, then item 1 will go to committee. Next item?
Items numbers 2 through 8 on the regular agenda are items for which public notice has been given.
We do have a card on item number 8. Let's call that special. The other items, we will close the hearing, and, excuse me, we've just now been, we have a card now on item 6 as well, so we will call item 6 special. I have been informed by the council office that number 8 does not need to be called special because the card is here in support of it. So, open the roll on items 2 through 6, 2 through 8, excluding 6, excuse me. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Those are approved.
Items numbers 9 through 28 on the regular agenda are items for which public hearings have been held. Item number 10 and 25 have been acted on.
Any, let's see if there's cards. I have no cards on 10 through 25.
10 through 28.
10 through
Public hearings have been held on these matters.
Okay, there are a number of cards on item number 28, so we will call that item special. There are no other cards on the other items. Anything special from members of the council? Item 26 is called special. Any other items, members of the council? All right, then open the roll on items 10 through 28, excluding items 26 and 28, which we have been called special. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Those are approved.
Items numbers 30 through 51, with the exception of 44, items for which public hearings have not been held.
Hearings have not been held.
That is correct.
There are no cards submitted on those items. Any items called special by the members of the council? 30 through 41. I'm sorry, Mr. Reyes?
Item 37.
Item 37.
Council President, I'd like to have that continued, item 37.
There's a request to continue item 37 to, for how long?
Point of order.
Just, let us finish this item.
Tuesday, please.
Till Tuesday?
Yes.
Till 1 week. Okay, so item 37 is continued for 1 week. Any other items called special? There are none. Then those items are before us. Items 29, 30 through 41.
30 through 51.
51.
With the exception of 37, which has been continued, and 44, which has also been continued.
Okay, those items are before us. Please open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Those are approved.
Could 35 and 36 be forthwith,
Item 35 and 36 will be forthwith.
along with number 8? I missed it, I'm sorry, Madam President.
I told them to make...
And number 8 will also be forthwith.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Holden, did you have a point of
I
order?
respectfully requested of you and of Alex, the president of the council, who agreed that item 1 would become special. Is that not correct?
That request was made when we called it here. I asked.
I
if there was
understand. I
anyone
told you I had to step out of the room with the mayor, and the courtesy would have been to share with the members of the council that Councilman Holden had requested this item be called special.
that was shared.
And you still, notwithstanding that, you still send it to committee?
The motion was made to send it to committee.
Even though I said
A
call it special?
a motion to reconsider it is in
She said
order.
the maker of the motion to send to committee said he did not hear my request that it should be called special. And therefore, I'm sure he asked for reconsideration on the issue.
Okay. Is there any objection to have item 1 reconsidered to be called special on the agenda? Seeing no objection, that will be the order. Yes, Mr. Clerk, next item.
Item number 53 is an item notice for public hearing, and it is on the supplemental agenda. There is also an amending motion that has been circulated regarding item 53.
Okay, there are cards submitted on item 53, so that will be called special.
That brings you back to item number 6, which is called special, inasmuch as a member of the public wishes to be heard.
Actually, I think it brings us back to item number 1, which was called special, as we reconsidered it.
That's the part I missed. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Holden? Item number 1 is now before us. Mr. Holden, you called this special? Mr. Holden? Item number 1.
Maybe a point of clarification for the city, the legislative, Mr. Ron D. And that is that I put 3 motions in, and they're not before us today. And those motions, I'm sure, would automatically go to committee if they're not acted upon. One deals with term limits as relates to councilpersons only. Is that not correct, Mr. Deeds?
I think there was a series of motions.
That is correct. Well, just share with the council the motions that I introduced and what would be the dispositions of those motions, notwithstanding the fact that the mayor has vetoed the matter that went before that was passed on to him.
I believe those motions are in committee.
State what they are, and so we'll know what we have to rely on, Mr. Deaton, please. Someone should.
My recollection of the motions that you introduced, Councilman, had to do with if we did place something on the March ballot, that the council agreed to come back at the November ballot and undo the citywide elected officials. And I believe that was sent to committee.
Okay.
We are now at the place where your next opportunity to place anything relative to term limits would be on the November ballot, and the deadline for that is July 18th.
All right. Madam President, members of the council, that matter is in the committee already. It's a vehicle that can be used at any time by at least 8 or 10 members of the council to address the issue. Setting that aside, we have a veto message before us today, which does nothing. If you send it to committee, you're never going to override it anyway because it's not going to be applicable. That's the second reason. And the third reason is that, there's a state law that says the 88 days are required in terms of notification to the county before you can place a matter in the ballot. Is that right?
That's correct.
So we passed the 88-day rule. And I think that information is something that needed to be discussed here, because no matter where I go in the community, the public talks about, well, what about those term limits? What's the disposition of it? The mayor vetoed, but what's going to be the action of the council? And this is the best way to get the message out, not by just being solid on the issue and saying, send it to committee, over and done with. That is not the net effect. The net effect is there is a vehicle in committee already that will address this issue at the time that we choose to do that. And so, Madam President, members, the term limits proposal was assassinated by some members of the council. And so therefore, the voters were being denied an opportunity to even vote on the measure, which I always said was wrong, that the voters are intelligent, they're smart, they know what they like and what they don't like. They tried something out that doesn't seem to be working that well in terms of saying you'll serve so many terms. You only have one term and one term at a time. If you do a good job, they'll send you back to the council or to the legislature or to Washington, whichever the case may be. If you're not, they'll remove you, as they have in the past, remove some members of the city council. And so I would say that nothing to do with this piece of legislation at this point, which is not junk, is to receive and file it because you'll never do anything with it anyway. So going to committee means absolutely nothing. Receive and file, use the issues that's in the committee as a vehicle to address the issue at some later date.
Does anyone else wish to speak? We had a motion to send this to committee.
Receive and file it, I said.
Oh, there's... Okay, the motion is withdrawn, so the motion is to receive and file. The maker of the motion to send to committee has withdrawn the motion, and so the motion on the desk now is to receive and file. Anyone else wish to speak? If not, the motion is before us. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That motion is approved. Next item.
The matter is therefore received and filed.
Pardon? The mayor's veto is received and filed. Mr. Labange?
Yeah. Madam President, there's a group down here that came down for the No Hope Project who wanted to be recognized with the San Fernando Valley Interfaith Council, but also more importantly with the Los Angeles Alliance. And I wanted to call on Councilmember Garcetti, who worked very closely with this group here in Committee for Recognition. But if we could stand and give them a big hand and welcome them to the City Council for their support of a combination project. Eric, I know you worked very closely on that. If you'd say a few words.
Mr. Garcetti?
Thank you, Madam President. As Chair of the Economic Development and Employment Committee, I know we already passed item 8, but just so folks know listening at home and the folks that are here, we just passed something which is over $200 million project and had a huge component of public subsidy for community benefits. And that's really because of the hard work of both the developer and of the community. It really sets the model for how we do development. It's like the Staples Center expansion, Hollywood and Highland before that. It really takes the bar and sets it even higher. I think one of the best projects in this country for adding childcare, for looking at good jobs in the community, job training, transportation near stores. And I want to praise all of the people that are here that are working on that. This sets that in motion. I know some people said this is in CD2, which is having an election today as well, but I know that there's strong support from both of the leading candidates for this. So because of time limit, we have to try to pass this today, which we already actually have done. So I just wanted to praise you, and I don't know if anybody from the Alliance or from the developer wanted to say a quick word or two, but if there's a couple speakers who would like to say something briefly, we'd love to enter that into public record.
Muchas gracias. Me gustaría hacer...
I'd like to introduce Antonio Bernabe from the Day Labor Center.
Well, hi, my name is Antonio. I am from the Day Labor Center in Hollywood. So I am coming to say thanks to the City Council because this project is going to significate a big world of opportunities for the day laborers and their families, and the opportunity to grow up in the community of North Hollywood. Thank you very much.
We thank you for your attention and your support in this very, very vital issue. The Valley is very much in need of all of the development and the jobs, the daycare, the clinic, all of the things that will affect our neighborhood. I'm here not just to represent myself. My name is Seal Sorensen. However, I also represent the Alliance for Democracy, San Fernando Valley Chapter, the Sepulveda Unitarian Universalist Society Social Concerns Committee, the Valley Interfaith Council, Social Concerns Committee, plus the whole board. And I just want to say that we worked 2 years on this development. We worked with the developer, Jerry Snyder. They have been very cooperative with us. Together, we put together a program which will benefit the entire valley plus the city. And it is a very good program. Our community benefits program is something that should be incorporated, possibly improved, but incorporated in all the future developments that are approved by this council. We've done a lot of hard work for you, and now you can take advantage of our time. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Roxana Tynan. I'm from the Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy. I think all of the council members have seen the wonderful community benefits that we were able to negotiate because the Community Redevelopment Agency was so cooperative, as was the developer. In addition to 75% of these jobs being living wage, we have also won union agreements for the Union Food and Commercial Workers Union and for the Service Employees Union. And as Seal said, this ought to be a great model for how the city engages in economic development projects in the future. Thank you so much for giving us the time.
And thank you now, Mr. President, for giving us the time. I'd like to praise Councilmember Tom LaBonge, too, for his work on this, and all the staff from CRA and the city agencies that worked on this, and my staffer, Josh Kamensky. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is for item 8, Mr. Garcetti.
Item number 28.
Item 28, okay. We have a number of other cards that were submitted to speak on item 28. We'll just add those to part.
Excuse me.
Okay, so for the file, the cards on item number 8.
Channel 35.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next item, please.
Próximo asunto, por favor.
Not yet, not yet.
Muchas gracias.
Mr. Clerk, next item, please.
Item number 6, called special, and as much as a member of the public wishes to be heard.
Have one card before me on item 6. The council calls forward Ms. Stephanie Green. Ms. Stephanie Green here? Ms. Green going once. On item number 6, going twice. Let's close the public comment on item number 6. Members wishing to speak on item number 6? Any members wishing to speak on item number 6? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Item 6 is approved.
Mr. President, item number 26, called special by Councilmember Garcetti.
He is, I believe, out of the room. Let's hold that on the desk.
That brings you to item number 53. 53 is an ordinance and is a matter that is set for public hearing. There's also an amending motion that has been circulated.
Okay, item 53, notice for public hearing. I do have cards from members of the public. The council calls forward Mr. Peter Kraus, Mr. Jaime Cruz, and Juan Gomez Quinones.
Okay, let me get our staff.
Please come forward at this time.
Good morning. I'm Peter Kraus. For the reasons stated in the letter dated December 10th, 2001, filed today with the city clerk, the owners of parcel numbers 5149-001-001, 5149-001-002, and 5161-015-007 believe the city lacks the legal authority to condemn their parcels and are therefore against the city's adoption of a resolution of necessity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus. Mr. Jaime Cruz? Mr. Cruz still here? Juan Gomez Quinones? Mr. Gomez Quinones here? Mr. Dennis Brew? Or Stan Sosa? Is that Mr. Brew coming forward? I guess not. Dennis Brew and Stan Sosa. That concludes the public comment on item 53. Members wishing to speak on item 53? Colleagues, let me ask for a favor here. Mr. Weiss, can you push your button just to test the system? It was down earlier. Okay, it's working again. Okay. Anybody wishing to speak on item 53? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, please open the roll.
There is an amending motion on this also that has been circulated.
Who has introduced that amending motion?
I don't have the original. Ms. Perry.
Ms. Perry, can we ask you to explain your amending motion? Is it technical in nature?
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I can't hear you.
Item 53. There's an amending motion on the desk.
Are you referring to the motion on the Latino Museum?
Yes. Is it technical in nature? Just before we take a vote here?
No, it's not technical in nature.
Can you explain what it is before we vote?
Let me put that aside for a minute. Let me get a copy of it again. I don't have a copy in front of me right now.
Or is the CLA?
I'd be happy to read the motion as to what it says. It says that she's asking that the council establish a task force be comprised of the city's Department of General Services, CLA, Cultural Affairs, County of Los Angeles, State, MTA, and representatives of the Latino Museum to facilitate the identification of an acceptable alternative site for the museum, and that the Department of General Services and the CLA, on behalf of the task force, provide a status report to the council within 45 days.
Any questions or comments on the amending motion? Mr. Reyes.
Council President, council members, I rise to speak a little bit about this motion. As I understand it from the CLA's office, what we're trying to do is put our best foot forward in addressing the needs of Latino Museum. Put together a very attractive package to make sure that financially they are at a stable point, that we're giving them options on where to relocate. So assembling this task force, I applaud Jan Perry and her efforts in addressing their needs. As we know, the presence of a museum for the Mexican community is a very significant issue given the population base, and I just want to applaud them for their efforts in addressing this issue in a sensitive manner.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Ms. Perry, did you wish to be heard again?
Thank you, Mr. President. I located my copy. I had worked for the Latino Museum in the past in helping them secure funding, and it is an important community asset, and I'm fortunate in the 9th Council District to have a number of museums and cultural facilities, and the objective of this task force would be to assemble a reasonable space that is at least the same size or has a potential for expansion with appropriate parking, so that the museum can continue to exist with structure, so that we can continue to enhance their position in the community and ensure that they have a funding stream that will cause this organization to be sustained in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Other members wishing to speak? Seeing none, then Mr. Clerk, please open the roll on the amendments. Please close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Now, Mr. Clerk, let's please open the roll on 53 as amended. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Mr. President, item number 28 was called special by Councilmember Labange due to a technical fallout on the computer system. We missed it, but now it's time for number 28.
Item number 28, Mr. Labange.
Mr. President, members of the council, this is an area of the city, Franklin Avenue, that has a great concentration of good activity. They also have a great concentration of housing. And they have a great conflict with parking. We have members of the Department of Transportation sitting at the center table. I'd like to ask for a 10-minute public hearing with 3 speakers from each side to address the council on their concerns, if that's okay, Mr. President.
Sure. Let's begin with a brief staff presentation. Mr. Labange, if I can request your assistance on selecting the speakers.
Susan, if you would be the first speaker and then line up.
My name's Susan Mindell Polifronio. My husband and I have had Counterpoint Records and Books, a business on Franklin Avenue, for 22 years. I want to thank the council and Tom Labange for letting me speak. We're non-restaurant merchants. There's 8 of us on this block. We get no help from the valet parking, which has been an issue around there. We've asked for a small variation in the proposed preferential parking district. We've asked that on Tamarind and Bronson, the streets directly adjacent to our businesses, that you allow 2-hour parking until midnight. Our businesses are on a street that becomes an alternate freeway route from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. in the evening. No one will fight traffic to go to our shops. We live against the hills. You might find a few hardy individuals willing to walk down to eat at the restaurants, but you're not going to find very many people willing to walk back up the hill with records and books. We cannot survive only on the people willing to walk to our store. I've been told that people are too angry to agree to this small change. This should be decided based on what is fair and what is right, not on anger. I am asking that the City Council make this change so that the 2 blocks directly adjacent to our businesses can be used for residents, visitors, and customers. The residents would have unrestricted parking along with the added spaces provided by angle parking on Chula Vista, the street too far to the north of us to affect our business. This would help us stay in business while we wait for the lot that Councilman Labange has promised to work on. You have asked the public to support local businesses, shouldn't you?
Good morning. I want to thank you, Mr. Labange, for continuing to work with us and listen to our needs in this situation. Speaking sort of on behalf of the merchants of Franklin Strip, there are efforts underway at the local and the national level to support and assist small businesses at this time of great economic insecurity. Our businesses have already suffered up to 30% losses since September 11th. The small business tax amnesty plan that's in place now, I believe, is but one of these type of efforts. I believe that punitive restrictions such as preferential parking without any public parking lot in place nearby will have a devastating effect on the livelihood of our businesses and the livelihood of 130 plus employees who, for the most part, to the tune of 85%, walk to work from their surrounding apartments. We appreciate very much the efforts of Mr. Labange in helping us to perhaps secure the use of the lot at the southwest corner of Franklin and Canyon, which has sat vacant for nearly 10 years. After 8 or 9 years of promises from various city factions to look into it, we anxiously await Mr. Labange's help in acquiring that lot for public parking and or at least removing the cease and desist order placed on it by the city so that we may lease it ourselves as we did in the past. Please continue in your efforts to secure this vacant lot for parking prior to the implementation of a preferential parking zone. We very much appreciate any time we could get on a delay of the implementation of the permit parking until an alternative solution can be in place. I'd also like to thank you if in any way you could compromise on the hours of preferential parking or make one side of the street preferential and one side not. This neighborhood has been a residential and commercial zone since the 1920s. Our restaurant space dates back to 1927. We'd like to see it last a little longer. Thank you very much.
I'm just a resident in the area, and I'm really shocked about the hatred and stuff that went on through the community. We've lost a sense of community because of this parking issue. People who live on the same street, we don't acknowledge each other anymore, and it's pretty pathetic. What I'm hearing from a lot of my friends that they don't want this. And we're hearing sides that there was a majority of people who want this. I'm confused. The DOT seems to say that, all this petition stuff was all valid and everything. I don't know. As I read in an article in the Los Angeles Times on Sunday that 67% of the neighborhood has to approve permit parking. I don't see that happening at all. I just wish we could get this all behind us, because this is really a detrimental force in the neighborhood. It's not really helping the businesses, it's not helping the residents, and we're losing a lot of community in a very, very special area of Hollywood. Thank you. One other thing, I'd like to present some names that I'd like to have these letters in today's file, just for your perusal.
Sergeant.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
They want them on permanent record.
Thank you for that input. At this time, I would like to call on Ms. Fran Rickenbach. Shay Johnson. Robert Noodleman.
Hi, my name is Fran Reichenbach. In the interest of time, I'll just be real brief. I'm the president of the Beechwood Canyon Neighborhood Association, and this particular Franklin Strip falls right in our boundaries. It'll be nice to actually have a time when the neighborhood can actually trust that they can get home without walking for 3 or 4 blocks to actually get there. Also, I do want to mention that the restaurants had been offered contracts for parking from different various sources and refused to sign those contracts. Seems like that it was a little, outside their realm. We also have to recognize that conditional use permits have been handed out like candy when this particular area is zoned light commercial. So we're looking forward to a better community and a better partnership, actually, between the businesses and the council office and the community in general. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Labange, and thank you, members of the council. My name is Che Johnson, and I represent the majority of the residents of the Hollywood Pineapple Tract. I have lived and owned property at 1922 Tamarind for almost 7 years. Even more salient than the problem of street parking for residents is the growth of drunken, loud, and obnoxious patrons to establishments on the Franklin Strip, most notably birds. These patrons return to their cars while screaming in the streets, urinating on lawns and cars, and even having sex in neighbors' bushes, waking me up at 2 a.m. almost every night. Some businesses work with residents, and we work with them because we appreciate the ambiance that places like Counterpoint, Pritzi's, and Tayo create. But some businesses have outright lied to residents, saying they provide long-lasting street security, which turned out to be only months long, or promising that their valets had adequate off-street parking, when in reality they were still parking in residential spaces. After seeing years of broken promises from the businesses, I now understand that permit parking is the only thing that will force them to keep their promises. They'll have to find off-street parking for patrons, and their patrons will be forced to return to their cars earlier, less inebriated, and less disruptive. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Robert Noodleman, president of Hollywood Heritage. There's an interest that we have in this neighborhood, obviously. This is still the oldest residential neighborhood in Hollywood. There are houses, a couple up there that go back as far as the 1870s. So this is an important residential part of our community. What we have looked for there is to support the council member, Labange, on his efforts to get an additional parking lot across the street from this for the restaurants to be able to supply them and the neighbors with additional parking, which is in a shortage there, which we have a problem with this all over Hollywood. But it goes back to the fact that over the last few years, I've sat through many hearings where additional liquor licenses, additional seating capacities, additional hours have been granted constantly to these businesses. In each case, when the issue of parking came up, they said it was being met through valet systems, that they had to go to other lots. And they snickered when people said there wasn't enough parking. Well, push has come to shove, and they didn't do it. The parking has been going all over the neighborhood through the valets, as anybody can see watching it at night. Now there is a problem that they have when the restrictions come in. They're only complaining because now they're going to lose their parking that they said they weren't using during the hearings. So we need to work together, as the councilman has said, to put together an additional lot for them because they cannot continue to use the residential neighborhoods as their own private parking area. And to go to midnight, whereas that would help the business, if you lived in your neighborhood and said you couldn't park there until 12 o'clock at night, how would you enjoy that? So we hope that this measure goes through and thank the councilman for his support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Hovazian, do you have anything to report from the department?
About approximately 2 years ago, we received a petition from the residents of this community requesting a preferential permit parking. The area that we are considering right now for the residential permit parking is the area north of Franklin Avenue. On the east, it's bounded by both sides of Canyon Drive. On the north, by both sides of Bronson Avenue, Foothill Drive, and Beechwood Terrace. And on the west, by both sides of North Beechwood Drive. The original petition requested no parking 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. For residents only. However, as we've gone through the process and we've had the hearings and the hearing examiner and the recommendation, the hours have been adjusted as a compromise to 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. For residents only. And also there's an additional item on there as a restriction, which is no parking 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. With 2-hour parking available to all residents and non-residents from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And that's the proposal in front of you.
In addition, I wanted to ask that you re-stripe Chula Vista between Canyon and Cherimoya to get additional parking for the neighborhood. It's a wide street. And also that I ask that this be done prior to any implementation of the parking district, and the parking district not be installed until the 12th of March 2002. So it gives 3 months that I can work with the community, and we both have to work together. I want you to look at the people over there, look at the people over there. We've got to work together to find a solution. So, Mr. President, members of the council, as you can see, this is a great example of a neighborhood that has conflict, but for good things, for activity of business, for activity of nightlife, but also we need to protect the neighbors who live there, who come home and have no place to park. I ask the members of council to support the recommendation of the Department of Transportation for the parking district. And I also further ask the department to review this within 6 months and report back to the Office of the 4th District on your impressions on this parking district as well. Thank you.
Mr. Holden.
I thought I heard Mr. LaBarge say this will not be effective until sometime in March. We cannot really establish the parking district until then, even if we vote on it today. All right. Well, it seemed to me that the Department of Transportation should share some background information with you. Mr. Yavslavsky was the first one that jumped off this cliff and started establishing preferential parking in the city of Los Angeles. They had a lot of construction going on in the 5th District, and the workers there were parking, taking up all the parking spaces. That's how it got started. And so, but as the time went on and they tried to create additional districts, what we did then, Mr. LaBarge, and Department of Transportation knew or should have known, we gave one side of the street for preferential parking and try to merge it that way so the businesses would not be killed. Hey, I'm not saying this for applause. You know, I don't like to be recognized. Make sure the TV cameras are on and they can see me. But once we did it that way, we also came up with parking structures, using parking revenue funds. We did so many, we were creative. And I'm sure you should have shared that with Mr. LaBarge if you did not. And he's going to review this in 6 months, okay? But that kind of alleviates the hardship. And you have a partnership between the residents and the businesses. It really works pretty well that way. So if he's so requesting it, then of course He knows this district better than I do. And it's almost as good as Pico Plaza. You know, coming down one of those main streets there where I got to have some more stop signs. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, I know. I tried to tell you that before you voted. But that's okay. But the fact of the matter is that I'm going to hear you. And so I'm sure you guys will have this discussion between now and sometime in March. But it's called a partnership, my friend. And for those of you who have parking districts in your own neighborhood, go out for dinner sometime in other neighborhoods, and you say, why I can't park here? You have the same situation. And people in my district are going to drive over there to the nice restaurants, nice businesses. You know, they won't be able to park, but, you know, I'm going to talk to them about that.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Other members wishing to speak? Seeing none. Mr. Labange, to close.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, member of council. I'm going to be working closely with both parties, both neighborhoods, the business here. We ask you to approve as recommended by the Department of Transportation, this parking district, which does restrict parking from 9 o'clock at night to 6 a.m. in the morning, and the streets that are listed around on the map that's been circulated freely. And also that you report back to the council within 6 months, and it is not implemented until after the Chula Vista diagonal parking is installed, and that you have everything in order as it relates to that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Mr. Clerk, please open the roll on item 28 as amended. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Special 1, not on the agenda, is the motion that was brought forward by Councilmember Ridley Thomas. Findings need to be made, and the city attorney will speak to the need of findings.
Madam City Attorney, on the findings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On Wednesday, November 28th, a 13-year-old boy was killed while participating in a recreational activity at St. Andrews Park. The police have called and asked for a reward on this because they believe that there's information in the community which would lead to an arrest. Therefore, the council would need to make the findings that the need to act arose after the posting of the agenda and that there's an immediate need to act.
Anybody wishing to be heard on the findings? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please open the roll on the findings. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Special 1 is now before us. Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Mr. President, members of the council, perhaps all of you had an opportunity to take note of the tragedy that took place in our city last week. And it was on that occasion that the mayor, the chief of police, the district attorney, the city attorney, council members Holden, Perry, and myself walked through the community surrounding the St. Andrews Recreation Center to say that we find this act of violence intolerable, as is the case with acts of violence generally, and we are completely in opposition to this, and we will not let this go unanswered. And I believe that this is the resolve that we have to have in council districts 1 through 15. The level of violence that Mr. Reyes and I talk about frequently, the instances that Mr. Garcetti and I have discussed, make it abundantly clear that we have to set our mind, our collective mind, against the will of those who want to insist on acts of violence being perpetrated day in and day out in our city, and the extent to which innocent young people are being killed. Marquise Prude was in a recreation center in our city, doing nothing other than walking through the door at the gymnasium, only to never leave again. Mr. President, members of the council, if our parks are not safe, what is it then that we are doing? The question is appropriately posed, is there no sanctuary in this city for our children? Certainly, the investment we are attempting to make in recreation and parks, specifically those facilities with Prop K, with the other bond measures that have been successfully completed, Prop 12, etc., Prop A, all of those that we know about, we have to resolve that they will be safe for children and their families. It makes no sense for people to say we don't have anywhere to take our kids to play when we have over 300 some odd facilities in our city. So I rise to say this is an urgent matter, a matter to which we should turn our energies, our strengths, our hearts, and the full weight of the law toward in order to apprehend those who engaged in this terribly offensive, this heinous crime against a minor without any provocation whatsoever.
Mr. Holden.
Mr. President, members, I join with Mr. Thomas in requesting that we post this reward to find the person or persons responsible for the killing of Marquise Prude. I went to the candlelight vigil along with the mayor, the city attorney, the district attorney, the police chief, and all, out in the community, giving the community reassurance that we were there and we care about them, that we want a safe community for all across the city. But I'm going to give you some shocking statistics, Mr. Zine, shocking statistics about the death of this young man. Almost on the same day in my district, another 13, 14-year-old kid was killed at the corner of Crenshaw and Adams. A day or so before or after that, Johnny Cocker's nephew, riding a bicycle, he and his companion was killed. Drive-by. Mrs. Zine, and I want everybody in law enforcement to hear this. The fact of the matter is that the numbers are staggering. In my district, to date, 48 homicides. You think that's bad? In the 9th district, to date, 74 homicides. Now this is even more shocking. In the 8th district where this murder was committed, Mr. Thomas district, already 90 homicides. You know, it would be a good job, I think, to have a partnership with the city and the businesses and the community and law enforcement, where the prime issue, the topic of the day, should be making our streets safer, and we're fighting crime. That should be the primary target. That should be the primary topic of discussion. All this infighting within the city, law enforcement, elected officials, we must stop it and stop it now. Until these streets are safe, nobody can be secure. There's killing all across the city every day. But most of it is in the inner city, the 14th district, the 1st district, the 15th district, the 8th, the 9th, and the 13th has something approaching 40 homicides already as well. And Ms. Hahn says she had 51 in her district. Those numbers went up since I last saw the last stat. And I'm glad that you're ahead of me. I don't want to have any more. Fact of the matter is that that's the topic of the day. That's what we're going to be talking about. We need to stop the infighting. We need to stop it now. And I'm going to replay this for Mr. Zine because he's been talking to someone as long as I've been speaking. It means he had a deaf ear.
Mr. Reyes.
Council President, council members, we talk about what we have to do. We speak to the issue of infighting. But I think there's a very fundamental issue here, and that is one of trust. How does the city begin to develop trust with the community folks? The people that are essentially trapped in their apartments, people that cannot even walk down the street to go to the dairy to buy some milk because some gangbangers will hit them up. The issue here is, how do we bring together our city forces, rec and parks? How do we work so that transportation department is working with public works to make sure that light is put on, turned on, to make sure those trees are cut back? Because this is where they hide. They hide where it's dark. They hide in buildings and apartments that no one is looking after. And this is our charge. Coordination with our legislative council deputies, with our departments. We need to show trust. We need to embrace that work ethic that brings together this trust. How we do it, we all have our individual neighborhoods, all their own characters, and we're trying our best to address that. Hopefully, we come to a point where issues like the senior lead officer embracing the kind of trust that the communities need to have continues to evolve. How we do it is going to be our challenge. But let's get beyond just talking about the infighting. Let's talk about real measures that gives us the policies to improve these conditions, that lets these gang members fester and react in such a way where they are penalizing our communities. One fundamental issue is getting them jobs, finding ways for diversion for our young people. Let's make the Taylor Yards, the cornfields, the other parks that we're looking at, these kinds of jobs available to them. So I appreciate what we're saying today, but let's start moving on those policies that gives us some concrete measures on how we can look at performance, look at how we can bring together these resources for our young people.
Mr. Pacheco.
Mr. President, colleagues, one of the most disappointing things about the information, the news, and the tragedies that we're experiencing in the community is that none of us can stand before our constituents and promise them that they're going to get more police service after these tragedies. None of us can tell them that they're going to have more vice officers doing undercover sting operations in the community, because some of these are drug-related or turf wars or problems with gangs. None of us can make those promises because we haven't gone in and dug into the police department and started asking the tough questions about what are they doing with their overtime. So today I'm introducing a motion, seconded by Councilmember Miskowski, that asks that basic question. And what I would like to see us do as a city is that every time we have an incident, a violent homicide in our neighborhoods, that each division will have an expected response, something that we front load in our budget, an automatic response that allocates resources into those neighborhoods. Because right now, none of us can go to those neighborhoods and say, you're going to get this, you're going to get that, to make sure that we reduce the crime. I'm talking about doing like 3 months worth of saturated police work in those neighborhoods after these violent acts occur. Because we need to be able to respond to this, not only in the front end by providing jobs, but in the back end from the standpoint of making people feel safe in their neighborhoods after they see such a violent, senseless act against a young child who's at a rec center, or some child who's in the back seat of their car seat while their mother is in the neighborhood looking around for a place to live. We need to be able to do that. So I ask you, when the motion comes up, that you start looking at it from the standpoint that it's the starting point where no matter where these crimes occur, whether they're on the west side, the south, the north, or the east, that each time something like this happens, we can go to the community and say, you're going to be saturated with resources. Because right now, the bulk of our overtime is not spent directed at violent crimes. It's being directed at other issues that may be important, but there's nothing more important than protecting our neighborhoods. So as the motion comes around, as you see it, I would ask for your support, and let's get the ball rolling where we can go back to our neighborhoods and give them some resources and some police officers and some support. And finally, I want to tell you that this is exactly the type of situation where the neighborhood prosecutor program that's coming before you would work with our senior lead officers, and I'm going to ask that we get one neighborhood prosecutor per division, not one per council district, but one per division. That way there's a mini project clear in each division. So I want you to look at that also as another tool that we can give to the community to make them safer. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Pacheco, and much of the discussion can and should take place when that motion is back before the council. Let me remind us, colleagues, of the specific motion before us. Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I appreciate what Mr. Ridley Thomas has done and what Mr. Pacheco has said, because I have the same problem. And I also want to make a verbal motion today because I have grown weary of receiving phone calls from my field deputy who tells me when she comes home from work her son is on the floor and the lights are off because there is a shooting on the average in Pueblo del Rio once to twice a week, and this has been going on for months as well. So I need help, but I don't want to go to my community and not offer people something. So I would like to make a verbal motion today to ask all city departments to provide the city council with a list of all contracts that enable us through community-based organizations to employ unskilled laborers so that we as city council can pool our collective knowledge and resources and make every effort that we can to put as many people to work in hourly unskilled positions as possible. I have already asked Public Works to do that by Friday, and I would call upon the rest of the city departments who have the ability to let contracts to do the same. And I believe I have a second.
Excuse me, Ms. Perry, this is appropriate for Rule 16. What's before you is the reward motion, and if you could bring that in, it could be put on next week's agenda so that it could be heard.
Well, then I would request that. So is it a Rule 16 then?
Rule 16 is a written motion that would come in.
I'd like to bring it in now.
It's not on the agenda, and
Madam City Clerk, I believe the motion was offered as an amendment to the special, and a report can be scheduled next week. Mr. Thompson.
Just a point of order. Mr. President, Madam City Attorney, this is a matter of an extraordinary nature. The rules are what they are, and we should be governed by them. But I think it is appropriate for Councilmember Perry to introduce a verbal motion. We can follow it up with a written motion, but I think it ought to be on the record today that there is an intense level of concern from CD 1 through 15 on this matter of the increase in violent crime in our communities and the extent to which young people, children, minors, teenagers, many of whom are innocent, have been killed.
I think it's appropriate that it be on the record, but I think that it then should be followed up with a Rule 16 for the instruction to the different departments.
Mr. Zine, on the reward motion.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. Looking at special number 1 introduced by Councilmember Ridley Thomas, the sad part, this is not the first, and it's a long history of these tragedies occurring in our city. And whether it's the 1st District or the 15th District, it affects us all. I just came back from the National League of Cities in Atlanta, Atlanta, I wouldn't consider a wealthy city. I didn't find one window that was etched with the etching that the gang members and the taggers are doing in the city of Los Angeles. I didn't find graffiti around downtown Atlanta. I walked in that area and saw police officers walking. I saw them on bicycles, I saw them in cars, and there was a very visible presence of law enforcement in Atlanta, and it made you feel very secure. A couple panhandlers approached me and my colleague, Councilmember Reyes. They didn't accost us, they just approached us. And they clearly had a symbol of safety, and law enforcement was very prevalent there in Atlanta. When I look at our gang proliferation in the city and the inability of our police department to address that, as reflected by the etched windows throughout my district and many of your districts, which are destroying the business community, and the police department is ineffective at handling that, and I spoke to a lieutenant last evening regarding that, and I was told we really can't pay attention to that because we've got murders happening in other communities. Why can't we bring Metro out? Because they're handling the other priorities. We've got so many high priorities, the gang members are running amok in the city, and it's like mobster town. And when a 13-year-old gets killed in a public park, and we put a reward, and that person's apprehended, how long till the next individual is killed playing in a public park trying to enjoy themselves? Narcotics enforcement has dwindled in the police department, and when we look at the entire public safety arena, we all cry for some help from the city leaders in charge of those operations. I totally support this, and I support Councilmember Pacheco's motion, along with Councilmember Perry's motion, but the bottom line is we need a police department that can go out and do the job of policing the city. Yesterday in public safety, we discussed the consent decree where we're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars tracking police officers, and that one issue we discussed in public safety is going to make this city safer. It's not going to prevent one death, it's not going to prevent one robbery, it's not going to prevent a damn thing. It's just going to consent decree that we have to comply with, and I look at the management of the city police department and say, wake up and do something to help our communities from the San Fernando Valley to the harbor, from the west side to the east side, because we are fed up, our constituents are fed up, and to say it's not a priority, that graffiti, that tagging, etching windows is not a priority, and panhandling is not a priority, and murders is now the only priority we address in the city of Los Angeles. It's a sad day for the Los Angeles community to have that as the only priority that seems to be an issue. We need our police department to be aggressive in doing their job, professional in doing their job, and the millions we're spending on this consent decree could be put into law enforcement operations. And a tragedy that we're not doing that. We can't do that.
Thank you, Mr. Senator.
Thank you.
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
What's the speaker's list? Because I just want to
Mr. Ridley Thomas, followed by Mr. Reyes, followed by Mr. Holt.
I'll close.
Mr. Reyes.
Council President, council members, one of the most profound, I felt, thoughts that were coming out of this League of Cities is the notion that our cities have become the front line of this new battle of terrorism. That our cities now are vulnerable to attacks from an international force. As such, we've been spending millions of dollars in security. Our Department of Transportation has been deferred to secure different areas around the airport, the harbor, City Hall. We haven't even really addressed our waterways, our security measures there. A lot of money's been spent on security based on this federal concern about our national security. Municipalities and League of Cities are asserting that the President, the federal government, must look at municipalities as the new front line in this new battle, this new war that we're engaged in. And as such, we should be a line item on the defense budget. As such, we should be receiving the necessary resources, the monies, the millions that are being spent on our security for our needs as well. As a front line, we are in a position to require that we get the support. What tends to happen now is that we don't have traffic control, we don't have necessary police, we don't have necessary security systems to deal with the gang members, to deal with those individuals that are taking advantage of the void that has been created because we have already allocated our forces. We need money for that. I appeal to you that when it comes in March, that we have a stronger presence, that the city of LA, the council members, the mayor, the county, be present, be able to assert to the president and to the federal forces that we do deserve that kind of subsidy. Because when we don't have that kind of support, guess what happens? Our properties get damaged, we get graffiti, $1,000 window panes get etched in 3 seconds, our blight continues. So all our T&I money, all our monies we've been spending on the Alani programs goes to what? We tend to waste it. So again, I'm sharing these thoughts with you. These are the things that come about at these League of Cities. It's important that we demonstrate our strength, our force. We're the second largest city in the country, and this is about time we start asserting ourselves. We do require and we do need that kind of monetary support. Thank you.
Mr. Holden.
Mr. President, members, I wanted to thank Mr. Zine. Every time I talk, his staff comes over and talk to him. I want to thank Mr. Zine for raising the issue as to why we might be having these problems. He mentioned the consent decree. Mr. President, members, I would have been supportive of the consent decree, except for the fact I said at the time, and I want to repeat every time I get a chance, I say that when you was approved, crime would go up. Crime would go up because the police officers would become timid. They were intimidated by members of the council then. And therefore, they would drive by and not stop some of these gang members. The gang task force was deactivated. No wonder drive-by shootings have increased. No wonder you have more crime in the area. So I just had this questionnaire, this form that a police officer got to fill out. Hold that, Mr. LaBonge, for a minute. And every time you stop someone, you got to fill out this long form, about 15 different questions, that ends up in a box somewhere in a division. Now, you think they want to do that if you got 3 or 4 people in a vehicle stopped by a police officer. You got to fill out one for each of them. Now, so now you have officers who talk about morale, driving by, seeing things that they would have stopped that were occurring before. They're driving by now. And you want to know why crime is going up? There are a number of reasons why. You know why there's drive-by shootings? There are a number of reasons why. And we keep putting up rewards. Yes, we got to catch these criminals. They are criminals. And they are committing crimes of murder. They must be stopped. At the same time, we cannot handcuff the officers who are doing duty out there. That's what some of the members did before, and this is the results of it. Every day, shootings, killings, they can do it knowing that nobody's going to come after them or stop them from it. Mr. President, members, I want to commend Mr. Thomas once again. I too saw those tears. The gym was crowded with people at that park, and they were all in shock, fear, intimidated, not knowing where to turn and to whom to turn to. I think we've let them down. But I'm glad that we are aware of the fact that we did, not this council, but the other ones. This needs to be corrected, this questionnaire.
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Mr. President, let me just simply rise and acknowledge that this issue is obviously a very important one to several of us on the council, and I would even say all of us. It was, I guess, 2 months ago when we were at the Figueroa Street School, Ms. Hahn, where we had a vigil there with parents who were decrying the level of violence that had stalked the southeast portion of the city, and the data is just staggering. The count is just beyond what anybody can tolerate, even if it is the case that it is argued that crime, that is to say violent crime, is down. It's on the increase in the city according to the chief of police, and all the data that we know suggests that it could worsen. I'm struck by the deafening silence in too many communities in the face of this level of violence. And I believe this is a moment of moral outrage with respect to the amount that parents have to endure when their children are murdered. So this occasion affords us yet another opportunity, similar to the outrage with Stephanie Kewen. We can't be passive, we can't be apathetic in the face of what this community, what this city has to contend with. And I believe we are called upon at this time just to simply bear witness with our own being the sense of looking into a parent's eyes, knowing that they have been struck in a way that is hardly possible to rebound from such an ordeal, happens too often in our city. And we are obliged to help do something about it, and I think it begins with us declaring ourselves over and over again against what is going on with the kind of frequency that demeans us all in our own communities in this city.
Thank you, Mr. Ridley-Thomas. That concludes discussion. Mr. Clerk, we have special one before us. Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Special one is approved. Forthwith on that. Next item, please.
Mr. President, item number 26 is on the desk. It was called special by Councilmember Garcetti.
Mr. Garcetti, item 26.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise in support of this, and the reason why I called this special was just to bring it to everyone's attention. As you probably know, that the Welfare to Work funding, which was much heralded a number of years ago during the Clinton administration, the funding expires this December 31st. The city expects that it can extend its funding for about 6 months, but after that, we face a crisis. Welfare to work depends on a healthy economy, and one that we don't have right now. And it is going to be critical that we are able to get the federal level of government to renew this legislation so that we have the tools to make sure that the job training, to make sure that the job creation that we want for our communities exists. We need to send not only this piece in support to the federal government, but we need to ourselves as legislators be in contact with our legislators at the national level and with the president to make sure that this legislation is renewed. It is critical for our communities, and I hope that you will join me in this effort. Thank you.
Any other members wishing to speak? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please open the roll on item 26. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Mr. President, closed session item number 52, A, B, C, and D are currently pending. Do you wish to close the desk before going into closed session?
Let's clear the desk.
Motions for posting and referral.
Motions are posted and referred.
Councilmember Bernstein requests to be excused on December 12th and December 21st for city business. A motion is required.
Mr. Holden moves. Mr. Bernstein is excused.
And Councilmember Weiss requests to be excused on December 21st. A motion is required. Personal business.
Mr. Pacheco moves. Mr. Weiss is excused.
The desk is clear except for item number 52.
Okay, and we have held the public comments period for today's meeting earlier today. So with that, the council will adjourn into closed session. I ask the guards to please clear the chambers. Next item, please.
Item 52A, request from the city attorney there has been a motion made to settle the amount for $804,000.
Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved forthwith. Next item, please.
Item number 52B, the recommendation of the city attorney and motion on the floor to approve settlement amount $433,169.10.
Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved.
Item number 52C. There is a motion on the floor to expend $375,000 in settlement of case.
Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Forthwith.
And item number 52D, there is a motion on the floor and city attorney recommendation to settle the amount for $495,000 for settlement of case.
Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Forthwith on that as well.
The desk is clear.
Desk is clear. Colleagues, before adjourning motions, announcements. Ms.
Could I ask
Miskowski?
just forthwith on each of the settlement items? I think we did have a request from the city attorney that some of them were pertinent, so all of the settlement.
Okay. Any announcements? Ms. Hahn?
I just want to say that really looking forward to tomorrow's council meeting in Wilmington. The community is so excited, and they're going to love all of you.
And speaking about tomorrow's council meeting, colleagues, we do expect more than just a quorum, but I will ask that we all be as prompt as possible to begin the meeting on time.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Holden?
Mr. President. I plan to do that. And I just want to thank Ms. Hahn for having us come together at the church so we can get our hearts right and get ready to meet and be respectful to one another and to the community. Ms. Hahn, what was the church you wanted us to be at?
And what time is it?
And what time is that?
Well, if you would like to.
I understand all that.
It's certainly not part of the council meeting, but Holy Family Church in Wilmington is having a 5 a.m. Mass, and you're all welcome to come. It is not part of the council meeting.
It's in keeping with the Constitution, freedom of religion. And that overrides anything locally.
Right, and then we're going to feed you afterwards, breakfast. Then, of course, the 9 a.m. Historic signing of the certification of the first 2 neighborhood councils in the city. And then our council meeting at 10 a.m. And then I'm going to feed you lunch afterwards. So it'll be a great day. And
breakfast and lunch?
I am.
Are you going to pay for all
Come
this?
and see.
Mr. Holden will be there. Any other announcements?
I have a question regarding, what's the travel time from downtown to?
Depending on the traffic.
Well, if it's 5 a.m.
2 days? No, I'm talking about the council meeting.
About 10 a.m. From downtown to Wilmington, an hour at that time.
At that time.
I live down there, and it's taken me, depending on the traffic, anywhere from an hour to an hour and 20 minutes. So on a good day in the carpool lane, 45 minutes.
I would get off.
Any other announcements?
From the San Fernando Valley, 2 days.
Oh, man.
That's carpool day.
With a passport.
Better take a box lunch.
Everybody please stand for adjourning motions. Any adjourning motions? Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas asked me to make this motion as the University of Southern California is located in his council district. But as a graduate of the school, I was pleased to say yes to remember and to honor Crispus A. Wright, who died at the age of 87 years. He was a son of a former slave who became a very influential civil rights lawyer, businessman, and a major contributor and benefactor to the University of Southern California Law School. He's survived by one grandson, Warner Richard Wright IV, and one sister, Miriam Lee. Please remember him and the contributions that he made to our great city.
Only in America.
Mr. President.
Mr. Holden.
Mr. Chris Wright lives in my district. He lived in my district. He was recognized and given honors here at the City Council. His contribution to USC Law School was quite significant. They gave him the opportunity by his education there, and he went on to give about $3 million scholarship funds to the law school. He shared his wealth with the community and his knowledge. He was always there available to assist each and every one of us and people in the community in any way that we needed with his experience. I must tell you that Chris Wright has a long history of accomplishments and an unselfish person, and we're going to miss him for sure.
Any others? Colleagues, I ask that you join me in adjourning in memory of Sergeant Brian Cody Prosser. Sergeant Prosser was one of the 3 American soldiers killed in Afghanistan, and his brother-in-law of a current LAPD officer, Officer Scott Druin. Scott lives in the Sylmar area, and just as importantly, Sergeant Prosser's father is a former city firefighter, so certainly a valued member of the city family. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr.
Holden?
May we do all members on Chris Wright and also on the soldier?
All members on both. Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned, and we will see you tomorrow morning in Wilmington.